We're going
We're going. All right. Midstream. Welcome to Midstream Thought.
midstream. Maybe that's like an after show. That's like an after hour show. We're like, and now welcome to Midstream.
Midstream. We were just talking about. That's the way every show starts. We were just talking about.
We're just talking.
So yeah, Chris, I think that is an interesting thing we were just talking about. So I think the conversation for today is the couple pieces to it. One is the requirement that you invent a future for yourself, invent a vision for yourself, invent a job for yourself, a career, all of those things being synonymous at this point for yourself. That's distinct, that calls you, that you want. And it's contrasted to, as opposed to the future, the force field, the future, the world gives you, which is sort of the Instagram version of real estate, the leaning against the Lamborghini, selling sunset, the whole, hustle culture, baller, this is my favorite.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And what's in, and we were just starting to sort of parse that out, right? Like the opportunity it is to create something, and then the challenge it is to create something, because you don't need to do anything to keep Lamborghini culture in existence.
Right. Because you open your social media apps, and in every post, or not every, but I'm exaggerating, but like what is constantly in front of you is, here's the life that you should want. And so, and I was saying too, like, you go, well, I feel like I should want a Lamborghini. And then I ask you, what do you really want? And you say, I don't know what I want. I can't tell you how many people I've asked, what do you want? And the answer comes back, I don't know. Like, how do we not know what we want? And I think that's part of it, is this imposed culture of, here's what you should want.
Yeah, that's really good. And because that answer, that's true. I all the time when I train people, it's, I don't know what I want. And it shows, this is going to sound insulting, but it's not. I mean, maybe it is, but it's not intended to be. It's because you haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
You haven't put any thought, and it hurts. It really does hurt to think about creating a future, because there is one that's default, that's already given to us. There's, there is certainly the one on Instagram, we're just going to keep leaning on that, is a continuation, for the most part, with very rare exception, a continuation, an echo chamber, amplification of, just the sort of normal human expression of, I want more, shiny, gimme, and comparing myself to the Joneses, and I got to lose 10 more pounds, and I got to get, and where's my $1 million, and, 100 sales, and and all that world is, it's in every field. It's not like just, it's, in parenting, people are comparing themselves on Instagram. I know this comes up, like, you're comparing yourself to other people, right? Keeping up with the Joneses is as old as time.
Yeah.
The phenomenon, there's like that. And so this is nothing more or less than that. But the what do I want is an existential question, where you first have to, get that it's possible to create what you want beyond the force.
Right. And to put yourself, in a structure that, it's hard enough to build momentum around what I want. Like, it would require you to, on a I would think regularly consistent basis, to sit with, what do I want, and to revisit it, to nurture it, to grow it, develop it, expand it, and then have system structures, spaces set up in your life that hold that in front of you. Because I remember going to Quantum Leap, let's say, as a class at Keller Williams, that I love that class, by the way. And we'd go for 2 days. I remember Mo Anderson teaching it, and Dick Dillingham taught it once when I went. 2 days and I'm having these great epiphanies about what I want in my life, because it was a space that was held for that answer to come out. What do you want? What is this? What is your life and personal power for? And I got really inspired. And then I went back into the matrix of Lamborghinis, and it, without holding that in front of me, it faded. What do we say back? You have to keep the conversational, like you have to keep it present with words. Like when what was that? It was a landmark distinction, but it was just like, if you don't, the possibility stays alive in conversation.
Yeah.
And if the conversation dies, the possibility dies.
Right. Which is why, Instagram and social media and everything is such a powerful tool, because it's keeping a conversation alive.
Yeah.
It's specifically keeping a conversation alive, and it requires nothing of me. So I just step into the automatic conversation that's being kept alive over there. And I have to do no thinking, which is, Daniel Kahneman would say, is the design of human being. You're not designed to think. You're designed to avoid thinking. It takes energy. It takes time. You literally are designed to not think, right? Slow thinking is not our jam. We are, thinking fast, thinking slow. Right. We are thinking fast beings. And if I can see that on Instagram and it gives me a future, and it does, it gives me a future. It gives me like, okay, I got to close 20 deals this month. Like, it gives me a future, and there's a gap between me and that future, and it moves me forward, and it very real way. It feeds my family, and it, except it doesn't leave me fulfilled, and there's no structure out there really to have you as a human being, which is that existential kind of conversation for who am I and what's my life for, that we both loved about our, which we love currently about our time at Landmark, and any we're just walking each other home is Baba Ramdas, or what is it, Rumi, is it
Ramdas?
Ramdas. And that phenomenon of what Jeff Wilmore was pointing to about slow down, more inquiry, less certainty.
Yes.
Like that world. And really this community is designed to be a place for, then this community then really does become actually a valuable tool, because it is the space in which, okay, I can log in here every week and leave with the presence of it. And it's, the thing about it that's interesting, or makes it more necessary, is because I don't like this verbiage, but we'll take it apart if I have to. You got to do battle with the existing paradigm. You're not starting at a blank slate. Yeah. Right. You're not starting with nothing. You got to get outside you got to get outside that force field, and you got to stay outside that force field. And that there's a gravitational pull. Right. Everything that you're going to see between these calls is sucking you back into GCI. Right.
That's right. Yeah, it's good. I like that. Like, there is the frequency. I mean, we've talked about this, like, should it be weekly? Should it not be weekly? Should it 60 minutes, 90 minutes? Yeah. There is something about, if you just look at the time under tension in the workout world, like that's something that's developed when there's time under tension, right? If you go the other direct, I mean, it's time incubating in the thing you say you want. It's time incubating, and the more time under or within the thing you're trying to create, the more stimulus you give it to be resilient in the space between.
That is, the time under tension is brilliant, Chris. That is great metaphor for what we're building here. I love it, because it is, and there's a tension for the 90 minutes. I'm like, that little fight that we have about 60 to 90 minutes, like that 30 extra minutes is going to kill me. Right. But it's a tension, and it is, I get to do battle with, the pull of the force field. No, I'm going to take 90 fucking minutes a week in an intensive workout. And I resist it. Mentally, I can notice that I'm resisting it the way I resist going to CrossFit. Like, I went today and I'm going to go tomorrow and I'm already upset, like already like, I got to go in the morning. And every time I'm done, I'm like, wow, that was so good. That was, I'm so glad I went. That was completely worthwhile. But I've never wanted to go. I mean, it's rare that I want to go, really super rare. And it's that, but there's the time under tension of the muscle, the actual workout. And then there's the time under tension mentally of forcing. I don't like the word forcing, but I want to do, I'm trying to eliminate the violent force, but forcing myself, pressing myself into, I'm going to do what works for producing the result.
Right.
And we don't have a lot of, I mean, it's sort of the hustle culture of existentialism, like, you got to hustle and grind out the existential nature, pressing into taking 90 minutes a week. It's as hard for me to do the 90 minutes of this as it is for new agents to spend the time dialing. It's the same physical phenomena.
This is great. I can identify a lot of what you're like. I've noticed lately, I got up at 2 a.m. yesterday, and I don't try to do that. I'm not, I remember early in my personal development life where people would talk about how they only sleep 4 or 5 hours a night. And that was like put on a pedestal as a good thing. Like, and now, the pendulum swung the other way. It's like, wow, you really need sleep. But I remember in that hustle culture thinking, wow, that's really something to aspire to. Like, I could be disciplined enough to only sleep 3 or 4 hours a night. And so I'm not saying I got up at 2 as like a good thing. I have these moments where I'll wake, my body just wakes up, and it's like, I don't know if it's spirit like waking me up, be like, hey, let's go do some stuff right now, or if it's just my body, whatever. But what I noticed myself saying at 2 a.m. last night, was I caught myself in a thought that was like, oh, shit, I'm gonna be exhausted today, and I got to get back to sleep. I can't get back to sleep. And I was so intent on trying to put myself back to sleep that I wasn't present to how I actually felt, which was I feel awake and I feel good. And I'm actually wanting to let's go. And there is this hustle culture in existential spaces where it's like, I think we point our boat upstream and make it harder than it needs to be. If we could just tune into 90 minutes is not that hard. Right. Your context is decisive. So whatever context you're holding CrossFit in, or 90 minutes in a community in, or what do you want to do with your life? And it just occurs as angsty, agonizing question. All of that is just context derived, and it doesn't have to be forced and battled and fought. And it just is that, I noticed yesterday at 2 a.m., there was a shift in my thought, what's happening right now? I'm actually okay. And this would actually be fun. And I just, veered my thoughts towards something that was like, what can I do with this, rather than I got to get back to sleep.
Oh my God. This is why I come here. Okay. Just to be clear, just because that's just such a great reminder and a great space, Chris, that, my default is, hard, battle, force, those words, right? That reality of, regret, angst, I thought was good. And the simplicity of turning in that direction is lost on, and I've taken a practice, although, fail at it more times than I succeed, but a really good practice for me is, and let's go with spirit for a minute, intuition. Honoring that, if it's, if I notice it, notice the dish in the sink, or if I think I should call that person back, or, my very, very first, the immediate, what's there is, I'll do it later. It's like the immediate answer in my brain to any thought is, I'll do it later, or I'll remember, or, like something to let me off the hook from action now. My immediate is, I don't need to do this right now. And the practice is, wait, you had the thought, right? The universe is telling you something. Can you pick up what the universe is putting down, when it's putting it down? And which is a context shift from one more fucking thing to do, right? Which is the occurring, the immediate occurring is one more fucking thing to do. And everything occurs for me that way.
Yeah.
And then how quickly can I shift the context to the universe is providing the next stepping stone to what it wants to deliver. Am I going to step on it or not? And that's what you just said reminded me of, because I get enamored in the romanticism of how hard it is to change, and how hard it's sort of funny and it's cute and it's, it's endearing, it's authentic, to express the angst, as opposed to, that's the first initial thought. And can I get it to be just a blip on my radar? Like, like I never think of, I don't really think about leaving my wife, but there's times where I like see another woman, I'm like, whoa, hot, but it doesn't occur like, okay, well now I got to go chase that thing down.
Right.
That thought down. Right. So there's, how quickly can I shift that context?
Right. I think I've noticed that I'm spending a lot of time in that tension, that time under tension, like in a day, I'm noticing a lot of context switching. Like, for example, it's December at the time of this recording. I'm in this very reflective vision space coming into the next year. I'm thinking about the size of my vision, and I feel really, on one hand, I'm like just super inspired because it's very clear to me. There's a lot of pieces that are coming together in ways in the past that they haven't. I can see how a lot of my life is coming to a point. It's everything I've done for 20 years. It's sort of like gelling for a picture that's emerging. And that's really exciting. But then when I think about all the things, trying to hold all the pieces of information, I get overwhelmed. I'm like, God, there's too much. I'm afraid I'm going to miss something. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to pull it off. There's a lot of things that immediately get triggered by the size of the vision that I'm holding. And in that space, like yesterday and today, just journaling about it, I'm like, I noticed my first reaction is to want to write stuff down because I don't want to forget it. I want to write stuff down because I'm afraid I'll lose it. And then I'm like, wait, but that doesn't feel very good, that experience of that. And so I'm like, and so then I think, this is the coolest. Like, I just love that I'm having these kinds of thoughts. And I think if you had asked me in my 20s, this is probably what I would have told you I wanted it to look like my life, the thing my life was for. What's that?
Like having time to reflect and
or that I would have a vision like this, that I would be like, that I'd be this dialed into the thing I want to use my life for, and that it would feel like it's mine. And but that shift of this is overwhelming to this is a joy was the thing I've been practicing, right? Like, this isn't hard. This isn't battle. This is like a gift. And
sorry. I hear Esther Hicks in my head talking about, right? It's just Abraham speaking like it's literally going downstream.
Right.
I'm making I'm turning going downstream into going upstream. The thought is go to CrossFit. The thought is, plan your work, take the time to create this. The thought is, and the universe provides this, provided you, us right? You had the time to engage in this, crazy, thing every week.
Mhm.
And yet I'm turning is literally going downstream to make things easier. I'm like going against the flow. I'm
Mm.
turning that into how hard can I make,
Mm.
how hard can I fight the current and
Mm.
still, wind up downstream. Like, so it's
Yeah.
versus just go with it.
Right. Yeah.
It's
That's so
interesting.
good. Yeah. I mean, it's not lost on me that I feel like that is like, that's sort of the point we started with today, which is like to have these spaces where you can put yourself under the good tension of, or the incubation of the thing you say you want, and to see
Right.
how much you can go downstream with that versus how much do we make it a battle. And I think when we feel the fear of missing out, the FOMO of what's on our Instagram feed, or the amount of Lamborghinis we keep feeling like we're supposed to own, there is this, we bring this dissonant energy into the ease of the thing we want to use our life for, such that we can't even answer the question, what do you want? I don't even know what I want. It's like, I bet we could start somewhere and you'd have some answers for that. But the pace at which you've come out of in Lamborghini land to the open space of just being with what does your heart say, there's a different speed there. And it's not a hamster wheel. It's a garden. now I'm getting too metaphor, but that's too funny.
It's good. And so just to circle back to where we started, with the Instagram feed. Okay, there's definitely a version in which going down, it's definitely easier just to get on Instagram, and it looks like it's easier just to get on Instagram and live in that world, right?
Sure.
And it doesn't take any work to create a future, because it's just, you got the default Lamborghini, wistful outside a listing, looking out in the distance. So there's that versus, really what there is, once a future is created, like if you went just beyond, right, that I think you got to get quiet enough to hear what you want, that I don't know that people cough out when you say, what do you want? And what do you want beyond that? Because I remember you and I once had a conversation a long time ago. Every realtor says 6 figures, right? That's what they want to do. They want to do 6 figures. New agents are like 6 figures is the goal.
Yeah.
And God bless, right? Good. Put you just above the poverty line these days.
Right.
But just beyond the numbers, the sides, the units, the GCI, on the other side of that, there are things people want that there's okay, if it's not battling, then it's letting go of the noise and just getting quiet and being able to see what is actually there. What is the universe telling you? What is it that you want? And once you can connect to that, then everything's just downstream from that, because the universe wants you to have that.
Yeah.
Right? Then it's just how that practice I was talking about, how frequently can you let go of the noise to get to, oh yeah, there's a dish in the sink, I'm going to do that. Oh, look at that, there's that call to make. Okay, good, I'm going to do that. Like, I'm going to start hearing my inner dialogue, my inner monologue, or whatever. As I'll be able to hear the difference between the universe talking and the noise. And I think there's a whole space to dive into. What's noise and what's the universe talking?
Well, and I think that's part of self-awareness and starting to know the difference between, this past week has been I've had a lot of thoughts around the progression of mastery, unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, unconscious competence, right? Like, I've thought a lot about that. And I think at some level, people deciding or creating what they want with their life, you, in the beginning, you're unconsciously incompetent about what you want. You're like, I don't even know what I want, because you've been living in someone else's matrix for so long that you never asked the question. You never thought, what do I want? So now we're asking the question, what do you want? And I mean, for the people that we're inviting to this community, you've done six figures. You know what it's like to have money. And when you're asked the question, what do you want? You're unconsciously incompetent about that answer. And then you start playing with it and you're like, well, I want this and I want that, but it doesn't quite feel right. So you start to experience your conscious incompetence of how it is to create a life that you love. Because you're like, dude, I'm kind of out of practice about this, until you do it enough in spaces like our community, where you can show every week and work it out, as Jeff Wilmore would say. Like, there's this working out of this thing you want, to the part where you get consciously competent at saying and creating, this is what I want. This is what I want. And if you're under the time under tension of that long enough to where you are living your life and veering your ship in the direction downstream with the things you say you want, at some point it becomes unconsciously competent in living the spaces that are exactly the thing you say you want. But it is a process. And I think a lot of people hate the uncomfortableness of the conscious incompetence about what I want. Like, I hate saying I don't know what I want. So I'm just going to go back into the matrix of Lamborghinis, because that's a playground already defined.
And then and right. So avoiding the pain of being consciously incompetent.
Yeah.
And just going back to being unconscious, period.
And it takes something to, my experience of it has been, it takes something to create your life.
Totally.
To go against the force field of the way it is, to expand our definition here. But, there is a way it is. And there's a probable, almost certain future of how it's going to go. Like, there is some effort in, or at least some decision in doing it differently. And that's, it hasn't been easy for me to do that, because at times I feel like I'm the crazy one when the rest of the world is like, hey, just do it this way. And I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like that's the way I'm supposed to go. And they go, well, what way are you supposed to go, Chris? I'm like, fuck if I know. I'm trying to figure it out, right? Like, there is this real discomfort of, there's the way the world does it. And then there's me as an early adopter to my own life, I guess, or to doing things differently, because that's how I see the world. And that's not always, a well-paved path.
Well, it's actually not a path at all yet. I mean, it's
right.
It's up. What we're doing is blazing that trail and seeing where it goes, and really exploring where it could go without a definitive answer to where we're headed. I mean, really, when we ask, it's interesting. So the resistance, so there is for sure the resistance of creating what you want from the domain of, just what Kahneman would call, the thinking slow, just the resistance we have to thinking slow, thinking things through.
Yeah.
And the quick, immediate answers are taken as gospel, six figures, whatever. And so there's that. Then there's the level of, or another aspect of the conversation of creating what you want, where you have to confront that no one's it doesn't have to be something wrong with the way it is. No one's saying the way it is is a problem. Like, you don't have to make it wrong. No, it's not a threat to the way it is. Again, contextually, normally, and I encounter this all the time when I'm training people and developing people, is a resistance to I'm fine. A resistance that sounds like I'm fine. I don't need to do anything about that. I'm fine. Like, the opportunity it is to go, that's true, you are fine. And what's next in this area? Right. Like, you don't have to, you're not invalidating anything by saying something, you want something else. And I think people have a resistance to that. We have a resistance to that aspect as well. So there's another thing, another point of friction is people giving up. There's needs to be something wrong with the way it is to create something new. Now you can actually have it the way it is and create something new. They're not, in fact, you can't make this wrong and create something new. The reality is if you make this wrong, you're just resisting whatever this is.
Yeah.
And so that's not the game that this is. This isn't, there's some problem you have that you're solving. This is the way it is the way it is. And like Instagram, the Lamborghini leaners are doing their gig, and that may be what they want. That's fabulous. Great. Not an invalidation of that life. It's, is there something beyond that for you?
This might be a good follow-up conversation for next week. Maybe I'll plant the seed here and we'll see if we want to follow it up next week. But I was teaching to a group last Friday, and what I was bringing to them was a conversation on leadership and leveling up their leadership, which leadership is one of our pillars in this community of repurpose, right? I said, one of the things we do for goal setting going into a new year is we talk about how we're going to expand our results, right? We're going to sell more, we're going to do more, and much of our goal setting and our targets are expanded in the realm of results. And that's great. That's fine. What I offered in the training was what we often don't spend time thinking about is how to expand our levels of leadership. And I came across the quote from Archimedes, which said, like, give me a long enough lever and a fulcrum to put it on and I'll move the world. And what I suggested and what I'm suggesting here is that the lever that moves the world is leadership. Your ability to lead your life for the things you say you want, for you to have agency in your life in such a way that your life is your creation, not a default response to the way it's always been, is leadership. And if you could play with in 2023, start to play with your own levels of leadership for what you say you want, and then doing the things to hold the space for those things to come about, you would be exercising the longest lever I can think of that would move the world. That is you creating your own gap. Again, to your point, not that it's wrong. It's just not what you created. It's a default response to the way it's been, and you never got a say. And what we're inviting you to have is a say in what you want. And that would be you exercising your leadership in your own life in the world you see possible.
I don't have anything to say to that. I think that's just perfect. I think that's a drop the mic kind of deal.
Oh, and we'll send you out with that one. Well, yeah. So,
yeah, but I think that's exactly right. I think that's exactly the invitation here, is, you never had a say. And now that you do, because you're here.
Yeah.
Right. What are you going to say? And then and then this is a place in which what you said can live.
Yes.
Like Lamborghini leaders live on Instagram, that will live here. So that when you come here, that future is what it is that's present.
Yeah. So good. Awesome. Love it. So good. Thank you for holding this kind of space with me for this kind of a work to unfold.
I love it. Time under tension is my big takeaway. I love it.
It's good. It's good, man. All right, Aaron. We'll see you next week.
All right, man.